This entire race has been about dignity and respect.
It is not over. God is always in control.
It is Wednesday, December 13th, a Fox News alert. It's not over yet. Those words coming from Roy Moore as his opponent, Doug Jones, is declared the first Democrat to win an Alabama Senate seat in decades. We are live with the results just in overnight.
And some explosive exchanges, 10,000 text messages, many of them anti-Trump, from an ex-Mueller team member, part of that investigation, calling President Trump a loathsome human and an idiot. We are digging through this fascinating new document dump.
And officers outraged as anthem kneeling Colin Kaepernick pushes his anti-cop agenda, making a surprise visit to a prison. We're going to tell you about it. Fox and Friends First continues right now. Yep, you've got that right.
That's right. 5:01 here on the East Coast. Good morning. You're watching Fox and Friends First on this Wednesday. I'm Rob Schmidt.
And I'm Jillian Mealy. Thanks so much for starting your day with us. Let's get straight to a Fox News alert. An upset in Alabama. Democrat Doug Jones declared the winner against Republican Roy Moore in a really tight race for the Senate. But Moore refusing to concede, saying it's not over.
Well, Jonathan Siri is live in Montgomery, Alabama with the very latest this morning. Good morning, Jonathan.
Good morning, Rob and Jillian. You know, Doug Jones has become the first Democrat to win a Senate seat in Alabama in 25 years. The sexual impropriety allegations against Roy Moore have totally changed the dynamics in this normally solidly red state in this particular election. In fact, those dynamics went out the window.
We have shown not just around the state of Alabama, but we have shown the country the way that we can be unified.
But Roy Moore, who rode to the polls on horseback, has yet to concede the race. His campaign hoping Moore's vote count would come within half of a percentage point of Jones, which would trigger a recount.
The Secretary of State has explained it to us, and we're expecting that the press will go up there and talk to them to find out what the situation is. But we also know that God is always in control.
But with Jones coming in with 49.9% of the vote to Moore's 48.4%, a 1.5-point difference, a recount appears unlikely. President Trump weighed in on Twitter saying, "Congratulations to Doug Jones on a hard-fought victory. The write-in votes played a very big factor, but a win is a win. The people of Alabama are great, and the Republicans will have another shot at this seat in a very short period of time. It never ends." Because this was a special election to fill the remaining term of Jeff Sessions, who left the Senate to become Attorney General, Doug Jones will have to run for re-election in 2020. The Alabama GOP issued a statement saying Alabamians are conservative and have no intentions of moving toward the policies of the Democrat Party. If Mr. Jones aligns himself with the liberal Democrats in Washington, Alabama voters will remember his choices in the 2020 U.S. Senate election. Now, during the campaign, Jones said that he would reach across the aisle to Republicans, but many in the GOP remain skeptical. Back to you guys.
All right, Jonathan, thank you very much. And, you know, with Jones's big upset last night, political analyst Ron Meyer says this loss doesn't mean President Trump can't pass his agenda.
And I think Doug Jones will be compelled to have to look at voting for these sorts of things. If you look at someone like a Manchin from West Virginia, a Heidkamp from North Dakota, they're really hurting themselves by not being bipartisan, by not voting with Republicans ever, especially on things like tax reform. And so he's basically, Doug Jones is a dead man walking in 2020 unless he works with Republicans. And so, in fact, the Trump agenda may not be dead. It's just he's going to, I think Doug Jones is actually going to have to work with the Trump agenda with Republicans in order to get anything done. And I think that's frankly a good thing to actually have some bipartisanship up here on the Hill.
Loathsome human, idiot, and even talk of Watergate. And now we know exactly what was in those anti-Trump text messages sent by the FBI agent kicked off Robert Mueller's Russia probe.
Yeah, it's been a lot to read this morning,
yes.
And it's not pretty. A lot of it isn't. Some of it we can't even say here on TV. And Griff Jenkins is live from our D.C. bureau with the stunning new text messages obtained by Fox News overnight. Hey, Griff.
Hey, Rob, Jillian, stunning indeed. And if you're just waking up, fasten your seatbelt and stick with me. There's a lot here. These are exchanges between two FBI agents assigned to the Russia probe, Peter Strzok and Lisa Page. And it led Special Counsel Robert Mueller to remove Strzok from the investigation. And as you mentioned, at times this is profane. But this is the point. It is certain to fuel the narrative that the entire investigation is tainted. Now, let's begin. March 4th. Lisa Page. God, Trump is a loathsome human. Strzok. Yet he will win. Good for Hillary. It is. Would he be a worse president than Cruz? Page. Trump? Yes, I think so. Strzok. I'm not sure. Oh, my God. He's an idiot. And this. God, Hillary should win 100 million to 0. Page, I know. Now remember, all this is taking place while Strzok was an integral part of the FBI's investigation into Hillary Clinton's emails. He was the one credited with changing the wording in then FBI Director James Comey's assessment from, quote, grossly negligent to, quote, extremely careless. And it appears to acknowledge that they're doing something wrong in their text. In April, Page writes, quote, so look, you say we text on that phone when we talk about Hillary because it can't be traced. By October, after candidate Trump had gotten the nomination, Strzok's bias reaches new heights. He writes, quote, I am riled up. Trump is an expletive idiot, is unable to provide a coherent answer. Then in all caps, blast, I can't pull away. What the expletive happened to our country. The White House is reacting. Here's one of the president's personal attorneys, Jay Sekulow.
The conflicts of interest inside the FBI and Department of Justice as to this Fusion GPS matter is breathtaking in scope.
And finally, in an exchange in November, before President Trump was under investigation, this. Strzok bought all the president's men. Figure I needed to brush up on Watergate. Page, my God. Sessions for DOD or AG. Strzok. Sessions for AG. Good God, Page writes. This is highly significant, guys, because today the Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein, who appointed Mueller in the first place, is expected to testify before a House Oversight Committee. And if that wasn't enough, it also comes as the president's son, Donald Trump Jr., is calling for a leak investigation before he is investigated today by Senate Intelligence Committee investigators behind closed doors. A lot happening to wake up to today.
Yeah, and we're going to go into what's going to happen on the Capitol Hill today with Rosenstein later on in the show here with a congressman here in about 5 or 10 minutes. Thank you so much, Griff.
The bias just exposed in the people in the forefront of the collusion investigation. Peter Strzok not only had a hand in interviewing Cheryl Mills, Huma Abedin, Hillary Clinton, and General Flynn, he was also involved in the anti-Trump dossier and the Hillary email investigation.
Fox News national security strategist Dr. Sebastian Gorka calling the investigation corrupt.
It means that this whole investigation is a sham. It is a house of cards, and it should be closed down tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. You don't have to agree with the President of the United States. I was an employee of the Department of Defense for 6 years under President Obama. I did not vote for him, but the fact is, this is a senior law enforcement official who wasn't just a bureaucrat. This was an individual who has been tasked to investigate a sitting president who, if these texts are confirmed, he agrees with the person he's texting is a loathsome individual. How does that mean you're going to investigate him? What is your axe to grind? And how are you an impartial peace officer if that is your opinion of the most senior member of our government? It is an utter outrage, Sean.
The president's lawyer says all the White House interviews are over in Robert Mueller's Russia probe. Rob.
All right, new Facebook post revealing the wannabe New York City Port Authority bomber taunted President Trump moments before his botched attack. And Kelly Wright is live in Washington this morning with new details that are unfolding at this hour. Hey, Kelly.
Rob, good morning to you. Chilling new details about the wannabe terrorist who targeted one of the biggest transit hubs in New York City. Right before detonating the Port Authority bomb, Akayat Ullah posted a message to our commander-in-chief on Facebook writing, "Trump, you failed to protect your nation." Police also found a note in his passport saying, "Oh, America, die in your rage." It comes as his family faces growing backlash over their controversial statement, chastising law enforcement for interrogating family members after the terror attack. Ex-CIA analyst and radio host Buck Sexton mocking them, tweeting this: "Sorry, our son tried to blow up a lot of you on your way to work today, but the cops were kind of rude to us after that, and we want answers." Former talk show host Montel Williams also discussed it, posting on Twitter, "This moronic, offensive, morally indefensible statement by CARE lawyer Con Lonnie just cost CARE national my support. I'm done." Ullah, who will make his first court appearance from his hospital bed today, came to Brooklyn from Bangladesh 7 years ago, thanks to the extended family chain migration program, allowing him into the U.S. simply because a relative won a visa through a lottery. President Trump vowing to put an end to it fast.
The lottery system and chain migration, we're going to end them fast. Congress must get involved immediately, and they are involved immediately, and I can tell you we have tremendous support. They will be ended.
The Centers for Immigration Studies reports this year, 99% of the 12,000 immigrant visas were family-based. As for Ullah, he's facing several charges, including criminal possession of a weapon, supporting an act of terrorism, and making a terroristic threat. Rob?
All right, Kelly, thank you so much. 11 minutes after the hour now, explosive exchanges between ex-Mueller team members just revealed as Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein is set to testify today. Congressman Matt Gaetz will be there, but first he's going to join us live next with what members are demanding to know.
And a call for help, the hilarious hidden message from this.
All right, Democrat Doug Jones pulling off a huge upset in the Alabama Senate race last night, the special election. His opponent, Roy Moore, however, still refusing to concede. Here now to react is Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz. Matt, I saw you on Special Report last night. I don't know when you sleep, but last night's election, it kind of reminds you of 2016 last November with Hillary Clinton losing the unlosable race and then refusing to concede. We have that yet again. What do you make of it?
Well, I echo the president's congratulations for Doug Jones. My district in Florida has a long border with the state of Alabama. And what's important to remember is that it wasn't the policies of the Republican Party or President Trump that were rejected. It was Roy Moore that was rejected. So I think the long-term lesson here isn't that Democrats are going to start rolling up victories in the Deep South. The lesson is we probably shouldn't nominate people who then admit to dating high school girls in their 30s.
Yeah, and I agree with that. And let me clarify, Hillary Clinton did concede. She refused to give that concession speech, leaving everybody there at the Javits Center wondering what happened. Let's go to the numbers here. It was very tight, 49.9% for Jones, 48.4% for Roy Moore. And then you had about 22,000 write-ins of people that wanted to probably vote Republican but said, I can't vote for Roy Moore when he's under this cloud of suspicion here, as you just stated. And the write-ins, I think, made all the difference in the world, you would say, wouldn't you?
Oh, absolutely. And again, it shows that there's not some great attraction in the Deep South to the policies that Democrats are fighting for. In fact, on the issues, Republicans continue to enjoy a really broad and deep level of support in this region of the country. Yep. It's just that Roy Moore was a uniquely flawed candidate. We're going to move on, and we'll have to fight a little harder and work a little harder to get legislation through the Senate with now a very razor-thin margin.
Yeah, and this was this is a blood-red state, Alabama. I think. Do you think it was arrogant that he thought that even, with these allegations against him, which seemed very credible, that he didn't drop out of this race?
Well, it's probably arrogant people that think that they can date high school girls in their 30s and get away with it. So, yeah, again, I think that this was more about Roy Moore than the policies. I think the policies that will lift people up and ensure that we've got better quality of life for all Americans are the policies that Republicans are fighting for. But this will make it harder to deliver on those promises because we've now got the slimmest of slim margins in the Senate. And my hope is that Republicans in the Senate will now work together more and actually fight to get things across the finish line and to President Trump's desk. That's what's going to help us propel to victory in a 2018 election where the map substantially favors Republicans in the Senate.
Yeah, it really could force the president, at least with the Senate the way it is, to be more bipartisan. Let's go over to the developments overnight. These text messages that came out are quite juicy, I would say. And you got Rod Rosenstein heading to testify before the House Judiciary Committee today. What is it you guys are trying to get out of the Deputy AG?
Well, we have got to find out why there is this infection of bias that seems to have really crippled the Mueller investigation. And we don't seem to know why Bob Mueller seems to always wind up with people on his team who hate the president. And we see time and again circumstances where people are compromised by their bias, by their financial setting, by their job, by their spouse. And we really need to be able to move on past this. And we'll be asking the Deputy Attorney General, how was it that Bob Mueller picked these members of his team? And I don't think it's a coincidence that so many of them seem to have a pro-Hillary Clinton bias and an anti-Donald Trump bias.
Yeah, I did see anti-Donald Trump bias. I also saw on CBS that, I think Strzok called Bernie Sanders an idiot as well. So I'm not sure where his politics lie, but he certainly is anti-Trump. Let's bring up some of these text messages here. This is from March 4th, 2016, when everything was really hot and we were election crazy in this country. Here's Strzok. Would he be a worse president than Cruz, talking about Donald Trump? Lisa Page saying Trump? Yes, I think so. Strzok, I'm not sure. Strzok, oh my God, he's an idiot. So, I mean, this really looks bad for somebody that ends up investigating this whole thing. And as we've talked about before, Strzok was a critical part of the investigation into Hillary Clinton as well, and certainly seemed that he thought that she was the best pick for the job with the options that we had in this country.
Well, you're absolutely right. And why, right after the election, before there's even a special counsel appointed, would you have these folks talking about Watergate? It's because I think the fix was in. They wanted to get a special counsel appointed not to objectively unearth facts, but to persecute this president because they didn't like him. I think we should have had a stronger vetting process to ensure that the people on Bob Mueller's team weren't like at Hillary Clinton's victory party like Andrew Weissman won, and certainly weren't people texting back and forth with their boyfriends or girlfriends about how they had a pre-existing bias against the president. Let's not forget, Strzok was also the individual that changed the wording of James Comey's exoneration statement of Hillary Clinton from grossly negligent to extremely careless. So this guy's all over these investigations, and the bias is pervasive.
It's a big story, and the texts, we're still digging through them. Thank you so much, sir, for coming on this morning. We'll talk soon. All right, we'll be right back.
It was insulting. Officers outraged as anthem-kneeling Colin Kaepernick pushes his anti-cop agenda and makes a surprise visit to meet New York prison inmates.
Social media fired up on this one, and Carly Shimkus is here to tell us what's being said out there. Hey, Carly.
That's right. Hey, good morning, guys. Now, it was billed as an event that would bring hope and inspiration, but to Rikers Island corrections officers, it was anything but. Union leaders are outraged by Colin Kaepernick's invitation to the New York City prison, saying it would only inspire inmates to attack jail guards. Now, according to the New York Post, Kaepernick spoke to inmates about social injustice and police brutality. And while that speech was considered calm, the president of the Corrections Officers Benevolent Association said he shouldn't have been there in the first place, telling the New York Post this will only encourage inmates to continue to attack corrections officers at a time when we need more protection. Once again, corrections officers find themselves caught in Mayor de Blasio's political con game. This whole situation getting a lot of reaction on social media. Carol on Twitter says instead of being part of the solution, he is part of the problem. His visit will only empower inmates to act against staff. But I got to say, a City Hall spokesperson said that Kaepernick should be applauded for going to that prison and using his celebrity to help inspire people to change their lives.
Interesting.
So, controversial situation, potentially dangerous situation as well.
All right, so Lindsey Vonn is reacting now to this backlash, major backlash.
Yeah, well, Lindsey Vonn got political, telling CNN that she wants to represent the people of the United States, not the president, at the 2018 Winter Olympics, and that she would not accept an invitation to the White House. And yes, you are right. She is now responding to the backlash over that comment in an Instagram post, saying, "My recent comments opened up my eyes as how divided we are right now. It is hurtful to read comments where people are hoping I break my neck or that God is punishing me for being anti-Trump. We need to find a way to put aside our differences and find common ground in communicating." So she's getting a lot of feedback from this. Diana on Twitter said, says you can't expect to bring everyone together by making a remark like that, meaning a political remark like she made last week.
Messy all around. All right, let's light it up.
so.
Talk about this kid with Santa Claus. This is cute, right?
Yeah, well, he did not shout, he did not cry, but he did take a hilarious picture with Santa Claus.
Right.
A woman from Maryland, a mom from Maryland, says, we taught our baby sign language. This is the sign for help. You're welcome. What a little diplomat. He's saying, get the heck, I want off Santa's lap, but didn't want to offend Santa
like,
while
who
doing
is this
it.
guy?
I do have to say, this picture's from 2015, but she recently put it on Twitter. So this little boy's now 13 years old, probably not afraid of Santa anymore.
Love it.
I hope so. All right,
Carly,
thanks.
Thanks a lot.
President Trump making good on his campaign promise to take out terror.
America is being respected again abroad, and we are taking care of our citizens at home.
But a new article claims the New York City subway attack is proof ISIS is evolving. Rebecca Heinrich says this is exactly why the president's extreme vetting system is needed. She's live next.
And 'tis the season for Grinches.
Good morning to you and welcome back. President Trump promising to make America safe again by taking out terrorists here at home and overseas.
America is being respected again abroad, and we are taking care of our citizens at home. We're going to take care of this country for our children and our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren, and we're not going to let people come into our country who are going to destroy our country.
But one headline claims the New York City subway attack proves the threat of ISIS is not going away, but it is evolving. So what can the president do to obliterate the terror group once and for all? Hudson Institute senior fellow Rebecca Heinrichs joins us live now. Good morning, Rebecca. Thanks for being here. Do you agree that ISIS and the terrorist attacks here in this area are going to be evolving?
Well, you know, the enemy is adapting, and so it's not an exaggeration to say that President Trump really has unleashed the U.S. military to go and defeat ISIS abroad. That is happening. Our military has been very successful in crushing ISIS in Iraq. But it's always going to be the goal for the enemy to attack Americans here at home, and so they're going to adapt, which is why now, in addition to fighting ISIS, where there still are pockets abroad and making sure that they don't establish other footholds in other regions, we have to be very vigilant here at home. And that means we have to have extreme vetting. It means we actually have to, you know, really make sure that it's not enough just that people who want to come here don't have criminal records. We have to make sure that they're going to be able to assimilate and, you know, that they love Americans, that they want to be here and they're going to be peaceful. That's going to be important. And we have to have a strong surveillance program around these areas where we have seen pockets of dangerous activity around particular mosques, et cetera. It's going to be a multi-pronged approach.
But how do you get people to get on board with that line of thinking, to be able to have that surveillance and do these things that you're talking about? Because a lot of people are against it.
A lot of people are against it, but you have to educate people about what is constitutional, what it's not. A lot of people think that simply because they're uncomfortable that that's unconstitutional or unlawful, and that's simply not true. The Constitution is not a suicide pact. We don't have to allow people who wish harm on Americans to be living among us. And so, you know, law enforcement has to be able to get into those communities, establish trust there. And, you know, a lot of these terrorists who become radicalized over time, they have indicators that they're becoming radicalized. And so friends and family have to be willing to go to law enforcement and let them know that, look, this guy is becoming radicalized. He was peaceful a couple years ago, and now he's watching ISIS propaganda videos. So there needs to be these stronger ties within these communities with law enforcement if we're really going to nip this thing in the bud and prevent these guys from committing terrorist attacks.
You know, this can happen anywhere. This can happen in any city, any big city, any place in America. But specifically, we're talking about New York right now because look at the last 6 weeks. You saw Halloween, you saw that terrorist attack, and you saw what happened earlier this week. Okay, that's 2 in a matter of 6 weeks. Both of those men would not have been in this country had it not been for the lottery system, chain migration. What is your message for the people of America?
You know, we just, we can't be naive. We are a generous, compassionate country, but it is not compassionate to allow our own citizens to remain vulnerable to these kinds of attacks. So, you know, nobody is entitled to be here. It is a privilege to be in the United States of America. It's a privilege to be an American citizen. And so we really have to pay attention to our borders and know who's going to be here and make sure that those who are here don't wish us harm and are here to be peaceful, productive members of society.
At what point do you think everyone will get on board with this. How long do you think it's going to take? How many attacks do you think are going to happen until people finally say, you know what, we do need to protect ourselves?
Well, I hope, obviously, that we don't have to endure another major attack. But there are changes that are being made slowly. I think that President Trump was elected because he has properly identified the threat, and so his base certainly realizes it, and a lot of other Americans who supported him understand that we are under attack and that this threat is real. And it just takes, you know, a constant public education. And unfortunately, it does take some thwarted attacks and other attacks to wake people up. But we are making progress, and you know, I'm very supportive of what the president's doing to educate people about what it means to be here lawfully, and also to make sure that we are properly vetting people. Again, I just want to reiterate, it's not enough that you just don't have a criminal record. A lot of these countries that they're coming from don't even have a proper vetting process. You actually have to demonstrate qualities that demonstrate that you can be here peacefully and productively.
Rebecca Heinrichs, thank you so much for joining us this morning, and I think we all hope we don't have to deal with any more attacks. Rob.
Okay, ladies, thanks so much. A Fox News alert: North Korea may be preparing to test another missile. New activity at launch sites now being reported, including secret coded messages being broadcast, likely signaling a weapons test is close. But Secretary of State Rex Tillerson says he's ready to talk it out with North Korea.
We're ready to talk anytime North Korea would like to talk. And we're ready to have the first meeting without precondition. It's not realistic to say we're only going to talk if you come to the table ready to give up your program. They have too much invested in it.
Well, last month, the North Koreans launched their most advanced missile yet that they claim could strike anywhere in the United States. We are about to find out who will replace outgoing Senator Al Franken if he is leaving. Minnesota Governor Mark Dayton, a Democrat, will name his interim choice today following an avalanche of sexual misconduct allegations against Franken. One possibility being floated by Democrats is DNC Deputy Chairman Keith Ellison. If chosen, he would be the first Muslim in Senate history. But Franken still hasn't officially resigned, only saying that he would step down here in the coming weeks. The president's set to make his final sales pitch on tax reform to the American people. He's going to speak from the Treasury Department this afternoon. That speech comes as House and Senate Republicans hammer out last-minute details in conference, pushing to get a bill to the president's desk before Christmas. They're working to agree on income tax deductions in high-tax states. That's the SALT tax, and mortgage deduction caps as well. Lawmakers believe a final vote could happen by next Tuesday. President Trump has called out media bias time and time again.
We're going to speak straight to the American people and cut right through the fake news media.
Well, now he's got some numbers that help improve his point. 90% of coverage on ABC, NBC, and CBS about President Trump is negative. This is according to a new study from the Media Research Center, which also found out that 1,228 statements, only 100 out of that many statements, only 105 of them were positive about President Trump. So there you have it. Jillian.
For another round of snow. A winter storm could dump up to 7 inches in parts of the Midwest. And bundle up. Bone-chilling temperatures are now sweeping across New England. Meteorologist Janice Dean is here tracking it all. It was cold and windy in New York this morning, Janice.
It is cold and windy. With the wind chill, it feels like 10. If we could put the wind chill map up, I'll show you how cold it is across the Northeast. Single digits, below zero temperatures across the Northeast. See, I don't have my... Oh, there we go. I don't have my clicker today. Oh, my gosh. I feel like I'm naked without my clicker. So Omar there in the control room is helping me with my maps. Thank you, Omar. All right, here's the current wind chill. 5 in Cleveland is what it feels like. Actually, it feels like 6 here in New York. It's getting colder as we speak. 20 in Minneapolis, 30 in Memphis. It feels like 20 in Atlanta, Georgia, and 41 in New Orleans. So the bottom line is it's cold outside. Now let's look at your today highs. Omar, will you do me the honors and put Weather 8 up there for me? There. Nicely done. Excellent work, Omar. Okay, northern Rockies, that's where we're going to see the snow. Yes, across the Great Lakes in the Midwest, we're going to see this clipper system move through. Here in New York City, we actually might get a little blast of snow tonight, overnight tonight, but it'll be a quick one. Still very cold, though, in the Northeast. Not bad, right? Excellent job in the control room this morning.
Yeah.
A weather person without their clicker, I don't know what to do with myself.
I know. If we were a union shop, he wouldn't be able to help you with that. It would all be
That's
itemized.
very true. Things you think of. We're just sitting here clapping.
Thank you so much, Janice.
All right, a Dallas police chief blasting millennials as the reason behind a staff shortage.
We have nights, weekends, and holidays, and those are some of the things that are not necessarily attractive to the millennials who want all days off and to be the chief in 6 months.
But is lowering the requirements a good solution to get more recruits? Our next guest, a former cop, says that may not be such a good idea.
Why do I even bother